Yes, I am a supporter of the legalization of marijuana nationally. I do not think that it should be a federal offense to be in possession of or consume or distribute marijuana.
Personally, I am a supporter of the legalization of marijuana in the United States. I think it does more good than harm, and I just don't think it's hurting anything.
Yes, I am because I think there are more harmful drugs that the police should be focusing on, and there are a lot of benefits to people with like cancer or various other diseases that use it for therapeutic reasons and effects.
I believe there are more pros than cons. Of course, there are parameters and boundaries and context for marijuana being having a lot of different forms that it could be consumed in, from CBD to THC to the utilization of hemp products. It's an extremely valuable resource, I think, to potentially solving many of the challenges we're facing as a society. So I think that the pros definitely outweigh the cons.
I think there's definitely more pros um, to marijuana use than cons. I think there has a lot of medical benefits and maybe not pros, but not cons either. Just sort of in the middle. Like, not super bad. Yeah, more good than bad.
I think the pros and cons kind of depends on the context and how much that person is using and their purpose for it. But overall, I think there would be more pros if you're using it for the right reasons.
It's my understanding that there are millions of people in prison, costing taxpayers millions of dollars to keep them in prison, and devastating many families and other people's lives for a nominal charge for possession, consumption, or distribution.
No, I actually am not aware of how many people are incarcerated currently. I thought, well, also because we live in California maybe, but I figured that it was more lenient now with the law and marijuana.
Yes, I personally take CBD oil for back pains. I also am aware of and have friends who have children who have utilized different forms of marijuana, whether or not that's CBD or THC, the cannabinoids for their children who were having seizures, and it did help and cured a little girl. I also am told that they are proving that cures cancer. So all positives there.
I'm not exactly sure of all the health benefits that marijuana has. I know it can be used to help ease the pain of some of the cancer treatments or seizures, stuff like that. I don't know exactly what it does. I know it's just kind of calming, but it helps. I know that.
I'm aware of a few health benefits, especially for cancer patients. I know it helps with their chronic pain, and it also lessens nausea and vomiting if they're going through treatment. It helps with that. But as far as everything else, that's like the extent of my knowledge.
I do not think that marijuana should be a class 1 drug or charged as a felony. Class 1 drugs include things like heroin, and I think there's a big difference between marijuana and heroin.
I do not think marijuana should be classified as a class 1 drug. I think it's not nearly on the same level as heroin and the other drugs. And I think it's not nearly as addictive or on the same level as the other drugs.
I don't think it should be charged as a felony because I don't think it's that big of an issue. There's a lot of other drugs, like bigger ones, heroin or meth, that should be more of a focus than just marijuana. especially because marijuana has benefits and the more harmful drugs don't seem to.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of people that I know have utilized marijuana for medical reasons, psychological reasons, anxiety issues. So definitely beneficial.
I think I know about 5 people who have used marijuana for medical purposes. I know, for example, my grandpa did when he was really sick and in a lot of pain. The doctor recommended it to him. I know it helps a lot of people with anxiety. It helps them calm down. Yeah, I know a fair amount of people that use it, and a lot of them like it, so.
I have a few relatives that actually use marijuana for medical reasons, especially cancer, and it really helps with their pain and just lessening their anxiety and all of the problems that they go through while they're going through treatment.
I didn't know the exact figure, but I did know that it was drastically greater and disproportionately. People of color are arrested and do time for things like marijuana possession, more likely than people, white people.
No, I did not know that it was so much more likely for African Americans to be arrested for possession of marijuana, and it makes me feel sad that our country is it's not made as much progress as I'd hoped for.
I did not know that 3 times more African Americans are arrested for marijuana. I think that's really disheartening that racism is still really prevalent in today's time, and it doesn't seem that we've made as much progress as I initially thought. So that's really problematic and something that we should work on.
Let them out of prison. And I also think to go to another step, I agree with something Bernie Sanders said, which was actually cost the government less to release all the people currently incarcerated for marijuana charges and actually pay them retribution for the years they've been in prison than it would to continue to keep these people in prison. Really interesting cost analysis there.
I personally do believe that people incarcerated for possession of marijuana should be released. I just don't think it's worth putting someone in jail for, and should be legal anyway, because if it's not legal, everyone's getting it from somewhere, so just legalizing it would make it all much more clean and safe, I think, actually.
I do think people that are currently serving time for marijuana should be released because it's just not that big of an issue, and I don't think that they should be imprisoned for it.
How many people do you know that have died from alcohol-related events? Oh, way too many. Way too many. Whether or not that's over drinking and the alcohol itself killing them, or alcohol being a related part to an accident, causing a car accident or something of that nature. And I know of nobody who has ever died of anything related to marijuana use.
I don't know exactly how many people I know who have died from alcohol-related events, but I know on the news and whatnot there's a lot more like drunk driving and alcohol-related deaths than marijuana. You rarely hear about people dying from marijuana use, and I think that says a lot.
Alcoholism actually runs in my family, so I know a few people that have died from that, but I do not know anyone that has died from marijuana. So that just goes to show that it's not as prevalent as a problem as alcohol or other drugs, and it should be legalized.